Hey guys, welcome to this video. And if you clicked on it, your games probably look like this a lot. With 10 different classes to pick, hundreds of different items, perks, skills, matchups, plus the PvP. Yeah, this game can feel overwhelming at times. That's why I say, welcome guys to my series where I'm gonna show you how you can improve your game. Today with episode 1 of Beginner to Demigod. The series where I go step by step through every important aspect of the game and we will talk and look at it together. But before we can get into the actual game, its flaws and mechanics, we need to talk about the actual basics of the game. What is Dark and Darker, what are the classes, and what are even stats in this game. So for veterans and advanced players, this video might be not helpful yet, but in the future when we go into detail, I think I can help everyone with this series. I think for new players and beginners, this is the perfect video. If you struggle to find your class or to even find the reasoning to play this game, this video is a good start for you. Welcome to the basics of Dark and Darker. Those are our 3 points for today. What kind of game is Dark and Darker, and is it a game for me? Class overview, what class fits me and my playstyle the most, and an important stat overview, what does what stat do? Let's get to our first point. What is Dark and Darker, and is it a game for me? In my opinion, Dark and Darker is a hardcore fantasy medieval dungeon crawler extraction game like Tarkov, but based on Dungeons and Dragons. It has fast-paced PvP with hard, intense PvE. It has a dark themed dungeon vibe, but it has still chill things like mining and questing, gathering items. The goal of Dark and Darker is to get into a dungeon and get out with the best loot, with the highest rarity, best armor and best weapons without dying to mobs or the PvP, that means other players in the game. Your way to get out are those blue portals. They spawn always when the zone closes around you, at the border of the zone, but they are protected by mobs and eventually players if they want to get out as well. If you successfully leave the dungeon, you have multiple ways of handling the stuff you took out. You can either shift right click it to instantly put it into your stash and save it. You can put it obviously on and play it in the next run, but you have the high risk of losing. Or you can vendor it to the merchants for a quick gold. Also, you have the possibility to put it on the market and sell it for maybe more gold to real players on the market. I think Dark and Darker has really fun and engaging gameplay, PvE and PvP wise, especially at the start of the game. There's lots of things to learn and thousands of ways to play the game. Even as a veteran, still learn like new things often. And to be fair, it's one of my best gaming experiences of all time. I love it and it always will have a special place in my heart. But I see the cons as well. The game is not in a really good state right now. The player base is not happy with the game. Balances are a bit off, but I think it's still fun. I'm having a lot of fun and I think it's playable, but I'm not that biased. I still see that the game is not really good right now. Another negative side is it has a really high learning curve and it's really rough at the start. There's barely any content for beginners. There's no tutorials. You need to invest time in order to get better and you need to fail a lot in order to get better. And that's probably the greatest downside of Dark and Darker right now. That you need to invest so much time and need to fail so much in order to get better. Now we get to the second part of the video, a quick class overview where I run down every class of the 10 classes that exist and give a short overview of what it does in a team comp, what it does in solo, what its purpose is, cons and pros are, like a 40-second overview on every character. We start off with, in my opinion, the best class for beginners, Fighter. He has a really good base kit because he has already good HP and a lot of reduction. He's very versatile because you can pick a bow, so you have a range option, a shield, so you have a good defensive, and you can pick a good one-handed weapon or a two-handed weapon. The Fighter is the all-arounder class in Dark and Darker and can do almost everything good, but nothing perfect. You only deal single target damage, and in solos or a team fight, your job is to play the frontline tank, peel for your carries, or do damage to their frontliner. But most of the time you play in the front row. The pros of the Fighter are he's a really good and easy to play front row tank single target DPS fighter. And the cons are he's easy to play. He's really easy to see through, people know what he does, and he has a problem with magic and movement speed. Class that is easy to kite, but if you're really good with your bow and your crossbow, you can deal with that as well. Fighter is a really good class to play overall and definitely one of the best classes to pick up for a beginner. Next up we have my main, the Barbarian, and he's pretty much a counterpart to the Fighter. Unlike the Fighter, he relies more on raw strength on his two-handed weapons. He hits harder and has more HP, but lower resistances overall. He's better against magic, but worse against physical damage. Unlike the Fighter, the Barbarian relies a bit more on movement speed. He wants to go in and wants to fight face to face. If he gets kited, it's really bad for him. But while the Fighter is a technical moving tank with a ranged weapon, the Barbarian tries to be a hard-hitting, fast weapon. His pros are he's almost as easy to play as the fighter, he is really easy to clear PvE with, he has a lot of damage, he has a really good kit overall, he has almost no significant weakness other than explosive damage against him and being kited. There's just overall a strong class at the moment, and it's really easy and good to pick up for beginners. Next up we have a class that's completely different to fighter and barbarian. It's Rogue, a class that heavily relies on agility, that means movement speed, in order to be good. This class has a really high skill ceiling and needs to kite good in order to be strong. A good rogue can one-tap everyone, and a bad rogue gets one-tap by everyone. This class uses dagger and a rapier usually, and a hand crossbow, and skills like hide and ambush. The rogue never wants to fight face up, he always wants to sneak up on the enemy and fight under his own terms. I would not recommend rogue to beginners. Surely play it, start it if it's fun, keep going and grind it, but it's definitely a hard class, and a good rogue player always finds a way into sneaking up and killing someone, and a bad rogue player always dies finding that play. But have fun, try it out. I just say rogue has a high skill ceiling, but it's definitely a fun and really versatile class. Next up we have the ranger, and there's not much to say about it. There's basically what you expect. It's like a first person shooter character with a bow. You have high mobility, you do high physical damage, but of course you have low physical damage reduction, and you have low max HP. That means you are always a one hit, but you're dealing good damage from afar. Of course, your position in a team fight is always behind or like in the back, and in solos you always want to be faster than your enemies, and your whole purpose is to get away from the enemy, shoot him when you have space, and run again to shoot him again. Exactly what you would expect from a ranger. Difficulty wise, I would give him 3 or 4 out of 5 stars if rogue was 3 stars and barbarian and fighter were 1 and 2. Yeah, ranger is a really hard class, because his spacing has to be on purpose and his shots have to land, otherwise he's just dead. If you're good at aiming, try it, pick it up, and you're probably good. If you're not, class is probably not good for you. Now we come to the first caster class, Wizard. And unlike the other classes, they use a spellbook or magic stuff or something else to cast with. Because they don't have physical damage, they use magical damage. Unlike the other classes, who left click auto attack, they right click their spells they equip as a skill, and then they use a spellbook right click to cast the spells with. The pros of the wizard are his high outplay potential, high AoE damage, he can carry a whole team fight alone, he has the highest skill ceiling, that's also the reason he has the highest outplay potential, but if you pull it off, he's probably the best class in the game as well. The class really needs gear to shine, it needs its true magic damage and movement speed, so it needs stats in order to be good, in order to be able to outplay people. But if you build the right stats on Wizard and you're a good player, you can put everything. His cons are barbarians, rogue classes that can get on his face, physical damage that can one-shot him fast. A wizard needs time and space to play, and if he doesn't have that, he is just dead. So if you enjoy that playstyle, maybe wizard is for you, but remember, really high skill ceiling, hard to play class. Now we have Cleric, and Cleric is basically the best of both worlds. It's a typical paladin as you would know him from WoW or Dungeons & Dragons or any other MMORPG. He uses spellbook, but unlike the wizard, he doesn't deal AoE damage with it, but buffs his friends and himself in order to get damage or protection. Also, the Cleric is a supportive character, so he's able to heal himself and his friends, which makes him a really good solo and beginner character as well. But his weaknesses are the same as fighter, easy to kite, see through, and really weak against magic. But overall, the Cleric, really good class and easy to pick up as a beginner. Next up we have the Bard, a character that is typical for Dungeons & Dragons. He plays his instruments to buff himself and his friends, and plays his instruments to debuff the enemies. But that's the thing about Bard. This game is really complicated and overwhelming at times, and for a new player it can be rough playing and debuffing and permanently having to put out your instruments and playing your instruments while fighting. So I would not recommend this. But overall, one of the greatest trio classes and a really good solo class. The Bard can use a rapier, a shield, bow, and light armor, and usually plays in the middle row and protects his frontliner or his backliner, and in solos he tries to kite the enemy with a survival bow. If Wizard is 4.5 stars, I would say 3.5 stars on difficulty rating for Bard. Then we have Warlock, pretty easy difficulty for this playstyle, full plate, melee, it's almost like fighter or barbarian. You just pop a spell and you do your melee fighting in the front row, not that hard. Then there's also casting Warlock, which works with curses and puts himself actively into danger under low HP, so he can deal damage and heal up from enemies. A really risky but really fun playstyle. He can also spawn ads to heal off and fight for him. Try it out. The casting Warlock usually wants to play in the front row, make space for his team, open up potential fights, make damage, get out again, heal off. Really risky, high reward playstyle. But if you enjoy that and that kind of style, Warlock might be for you. 3 out of 5 difficulty, I would say.
Me to quickly explain how Druid works. Very simple. I run these perks. You can run Spirit Bond instead. These spells, you pop Tree of Life on your teammate, Restore and Nature's Touch, and then you want to Dreamfire, Entangling Vines, one of these guys. That's your CC, makes targets a little bit slower, like this. High PDR and a higher amount of knowledge, 38 to 42-ish. Spear is definitely a good part because Ceremonial Staff is just ass. There's an argument for more action speed, but if you run this and you have a really good frontliner that can do most damage, like a Barbarian, or a really, really good fighter player that can block every hit that the enemy will throw at him, then most of the time it's an easy win.
Thanks, Dokia, for the help on Druid. I can't say much about Sorcerer because I have barely played or not really played the class at all and barely seen it. If you want to check out more about Sorcerer and the class is interesting for you, I will link you a friend of mine, Morty, in my description. He's a really, really good Sorcerer player. I can just say for me it feels like stronger melee wizard with more defensive spells. But he has the same downsides, he's weak against Barbarian. Then, up to our last point of this video, stats. Of course, every character has and needs different stats. Now, we will take an overview over every stat with a quick and simple explanation to it. And then, we will logically think what character does need what stat. For anyone that wants to take a deeper look into stats, wait for my video on it, or check the Dark and Darker wiki. I will put the link into the description. First up, we have Strength. Strength is a stat you only want to build on physical damage characters, as it increases your physical damage power bonus and your health slightly, but it doesn't increase your magical damage bonus. So Strength is the stat only want to build on physical damage dealers. It's also a stat that is kept pretty low, so you only want to build a bit of it if you build it and not too much. It's not like as more as you build, the more you get. It's capped at 1 point, so you only need to be a bit of it in order to be good. A good stat for physical damage dealers, and you should always build a bit of strength in your kit. If you are not a caster, because as a caster the next stat is way better for you. The next stat is max health or vigor, and yeah, it's basically what it is. It increases your max health, and this with movement speed the most important stat, because movement speed and max health mean survivability. The damage is really high in this game, so vigor is a must-have stat for every character, at least a bit in its kit, to higher his HP. Next up we have agility. It increases your movement speed and regular action speed and slightly increases your action speed. That means how fast does your character move, how fast does your character interact with things, like opening doors, opening chests, looting a pile. It also slightly increases your action speed. Action speed is the stat that improves the speed of your weapon. How fast do you swing your weapon? Movement speed and agility as a stat is great overall, and almost every character needs to build it. Agility is the most important stat. Movement speed is the most important stat in this current meta and in the game. Next up we have dexterity. Increases your action speed and manual dexterity. Increases your item equip speed. So this is basically the stat that increases how fast you swing your weapon. Action speed increases the swing time of your weapon. This is one of the most underrated stats, and it's the most needed on Barbarian, Rogue and Fighter, and sometimes Ranger on certain builds. So classes that need to attack often and fast. Because Barbarian lacks and Fighter lacks action speed, they need to build it through dexterity and action speed as a stat. On a good kit, it really makes a difference for a melee character how high is your agility and your action speed and your dexterity, because that's the difference between a good kit and a bad kit. Next up we have Will, and Will is basically for casters what strength is for Barbarians or fighters. For melees, it increases their spell power, so their magic and damage bonus, and their buff and debuff duration, also their magic resist. It's a stat you don't really build that much on casters, just a tiny bit as an extra stat, but it's not really good to stack and it doesn't scale that good, so it's a stat you can build, but you don't really want to overstack or build that much. Knowledge basically says how many spells a caster can equip. As higher the knowledge, as more spells he can equip, and also how fast the caster can cast with his spell book. As a last stat we have resourcefulness, and it's basically just a stat that increases how fast you interact with most of the things in the game. It's not a stat you build because it gives you no combat power. It's a stat that's more like for meme builds like luck kits or mining kits. And now that we talked about weaknesses, it just makes sense that certain stats are good with certain classes. Like a barbarian wants to get rid of his weaknesses, that's why he builds agility and dexterity for the most part, while having a lot of HP, because he can build Vigor and Strength a bit and is still really strong. While a fighter would build Vigor and Agility to make up for his weaknesses, because he doesn't lack Strength and Dexterity that much. A wizard on the other hand doesn't need all those stats. A wizard would build a lot of agility and knowledge because that's the survivability, and only a bit of will to deal extra damage and things like true magical damage. But those are stats for another video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was the first part, really just scratching the surface of the game. Absolute basic. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.